The idea that female genital mutilation has more to do with culture and not religion is wrong. Support for it's been included in a new Australian citizenship test, along with questions about attitudes towards women and a stronger focus on learning English. Now, you'd have to be an idiot to say in a test that you support female genital mutilation, but at least it's an indicator of what's expected if you move to a country like Australia. But Muslims and progressives keep pushing the line that female circumcision is only about culture. Iconic feminist and Australian Germaine Greer even equated modern labiaplasty procedures as a moral equivalent. It's commonly referred to as an African practice. For example, in countries like Somalia, the prevalence is 90%. Egypt, the largest Arab country, it's probably about 80%. Now, it's true that genital mutilation traditions existed in cultures which predated Muslim communities. That's true, I accept that. But it was Islam that enshrined it in divine law. It's not actually even mentioned in the Quran, but there are several passages in the verses known as the Hadith, which is the sacred sayings and practices promoted by the Prophet Muhammad, which openly recommend it. Nowhere is it denounced or condemned. Now, there are four main categories of legal thought in Islam. They sound like tribes from the Survivor reality series. The Hanafi, Shafi, Maliki and Hanbali schools. In one of the schools, the Shafi, girls being circumcised is mandatory. In the other three, it's considered optional but preferred. So how can anyone pretend the practice has nothing to do with Islam? If it was all about the culture of certain tribal groups in regions of Africa, they would expect the practice to be non-existent in cultures far away. Take Indonesia. It's the biggest Muslim country and neighbours Australia. It's got 250 million people, 90% of whom are Muslim. Despite having little in common with African or Arab countries, except for Islam, over half of Indonesian girls have undergone the practice, according to the United Nations, no less. More than 90% of households think the practice should continue. This is because the Shafi school of Islam is dominant there. Now, these facts don't sit well with the apologists, who repeatedly point to culture as being the cause. The nomadic tribal cultures that pre-existed Islam gave rise to many of the practices and beliefs encapsulated in the theology, much like Jewish, Greek, and Roman traditions informed aspects of Christianity. But Islam has a way of freezing outdated cultural practices as divine truth, whereas cultures are, by their nature, much more fluid. I've only seen a couple of cases of female genital mutilation in my work as a doctor, both of them from newly arrived women from Islamic countries. Now, given Australia's migration, much like Canada, is dominated by skilled migrants, our cases here are definitely low. And there are large swathes of the Islamic world, such as South Asia, Bangladesh, where I'm from, where it's not practiced at all. But it's just another issue that illustrates something, that moderate Muslims are more often guilty of sanitizing the religion, but are quick to accuse radicals of hijacking the faith incorrectly. It's outright denial. Muslims attach their identity too close to Islam, and then debating the ideas is taken too personally, leads to defensiveness. Now, the public has a right to be confused, and even more so, probably a little suspicious.